Great. I'm hoping my screen is visible. Jordan?
Yes, it is visible, clear.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So again, a very good evening and very warm welcome to this much awaited session and a small webinar for about an hour or so with one of our very favorite mentor and an expert on cloud and everything related to cloud, because cloud is now almost covering the entire organizational infrastructure, applications, and everything that you would envisage in an organization. So I'm hoping that we have a mix of, we know that a mix of participants have joined today. Some of you are maybe novice, some of you are students, some of you are very senior working professionals, some of you might be working in a large organizations like an MNC, some of you might be looking from a startup point of view. Whatever the reasons that you have joined for this program, we know that one way or other, cloud is going to affect your daily life, daily professions, and a lot of conversations around how to move to cloud, how much to move to cloud, and which partner that we would choose. And because this is not an option anymore, moving to cloud has become absolutely an imperative for business transformation. Cloud is going to give you amazing agility, amazing flexibility, and scalability. But there are multiple decisions that as technologists, as maybe the professionals who want to get into the cloud transformation journeys, the organizations that looking at, we would want to understand which cloud service provider that we must focus on or we must choose. Is it one provider or multiple providers? Or is it the kind of cost scary stories that we hear about when we move to cloud? How do we optimize the cost? What kind of risk is involved? And especially with the digital transformations in emerging technologies which is happening, whether all the cloud providers are now equipped to provide that kind of a support to organization. It could be in your AI journey, it could be in your cybersecurity journey, it could be in developing app completely on cloud for a global audience. Because you know that there are banks today has not a single physical infrastructure, 100% working on cloud infrastructure. Or there could be some organizations that from 100% physical infrastructure, we would want to move, maybe start the journey, in cloud in a very small way. So whatever the intent or whatever the queries that you have and brought you to this session, we are hoping that you will have a great understanding at the end of the session. And just to introduce again ourselves, so I am Dr. Shinu Abi, the Director for Corporate Training Programs, and we represent Reva University. It's a beautiful Bangalore-based university, but very promising universities, which has about 15,000 students, 2,000 plus faculty and staff, offering about 100 plus courses across disciplines. And if you have been part of Reva, absolutely welcome you again to the webinar. But if you have never come to Reva, we welcome all of you to this beautiful campus and enjoy the university, what it has to offer. We represent a very specific entity within the Reva University, which is called Reva Academy for Corporate Excellence. This division works exclusively for career transitioning for working professionals. And cloud has been one of the area that, as you are aware, it is ubiquitously changing the landscape. So we have multiple offerings and multiple sessions that we do on cloud. And Professor Rao has been an amazing support for us. He's our mentor in RACE. He has been corporate trainer, but more than that, he is an implementer. He is a solutionist. He is a problem solver. He's a cloud architect who works across cloud platforms. He has worked on AWS, Azure, Google, which are the main ones. And we also saw the poll in the WhatsApp group that most of you, or at least majority of you, are working on AWS. We may not focus so much here on the individual cloud providers, but overall, how do you look at cloud and how would you actually ask the right questions? And you also might want to look at what are the key decisions that you would do, one from the enterprise perspective, Another is from an individual perspective. How do I now leverage this whole transformation and make my career shift to some of these amazing technologies which are presented to you? So with that, the session will be handled by Professor Rao. Please chat your, there is a chat option, so please chat your questions there. We are live on YouTube, and if you have, I'm sure that a lot of questions will be answered during the session, but we would definitely request that if you have very specific questions to Professor Rao, please do. And looking forward to an absolutely amazing session as always, Professor Rao. Thank you. Professor Rao, if you could share your screen, I will go from the video mode.
Perfect. So thank you very much, ma'am, and good evening, all. Yeah, so I don't want to spend the time on introducing myself because ma'am has given you the enough introduction. So we directly jump into, because we have a very limited time. It's around 1 hour time that we have. So we will directly jump into the actual the content. So I kept the agenda as very simple because I want to give more time on because I can say the cloud today means 5 years back. I can say the organizations were doubtful whether I have to migrate my the existing applications or partially or fully. So what will be the the results of that and all. So they are having so many doubts and all. But within this 5 year, if you see, there is a lot of maturity in terms of the cloud adoption, actually, the cloud adoption. But yes, still, the adoption is going on well. And that too is kind of, I have seen something it's kind of a forceful adoption, actually. It is not like, yes, whether my business really requires the cloud adoption or not, or whether these cloud native applications will really increase the ROI in my business or not. So whether the adoption framework which I have used, is it a proper adoption framework? Or it is something we started moving slowly to the cloud without any proper or a structured manner. And it's first one application will move, or some things we are just rehosting onto the cloud. So what exactly that we need to follow when we want to migrate to the cloud? So these are all basically, so how a brownfield application deployment happens on the cloud, and how a greenfield environment can be created on the cloud, what need to be taken care. So these are all the areas that I want to talk more. But yes, because it's kind of an introduction course, so what I'm trying to keep here is kind of cloud fundamentals, cloud service delivery model. But the actual concepts are from migrations, the DevOps trends, and why we are talking more on the DevOps here, even though it is a cloud introduction or the cloud overview kind of stuff, because there is according to my, what do you call it, as a view, which I have, then where I have done the multiple implementations and all, I found one of the the driving factor behind the cloud adoption. One of the major driving factor behind the cloud adoption, I found it as the DevOps. So I just want to give the kind of the dependencies that we have between the DevOps and the cloud concepts, actually. And then finally, we will be spending on the question and answer session, actually. So this is in simple the agenda of this the webinar, actually. So meanwhile, I'll just...
Prof, one small intrusion. Can you put it in slide mode, your presentation?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, I know majority of you Just a second. Okay. So instead of the slide mode, I kept it like this, full screen mode.
No problem.
Yeah.
Now it's perfect. Yes.
Yeah, because I just want to use the notepad here and there. Okay, fine. Okay, guys. So you want me really like say get into the cloud fundamentals and then start? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just like see for some of the people who might be new to these cloud concepts and all. Let me quickly give an overview on this, and then I want to spend more time on the migration strategies, the DevOps concepts, and the DevOps in the cloud dependencies. Cloud dependency. These are all the areas that I want to, because the cloud fundamentals, cloud service delivery models. You might be hearing this since almost all like years now, but my perspective of like say talking about this cloud service delivery models will be different actually. I don't want to talk in a technology perspective. I want to talk in more on the migration perspective. What is this cloud service delivery models and all? So that is the reason I just kept one slide for that. And then the cloud fundamentals. Let me quickly go through the cloud fundamentals and give you a overview of the cloud fundamentals here. So introducing the cloud computing. So here you can see we directly kept a data center here in the slide itself. So basically, one of the most important concept, or like say, the word means that we always talk when you try to define what is a cloud. When you try to define what is a cloud, we always start the discussion with the concept of a data center. The reason is very simple. See, I don't see the cloud as a kind of a technology or something. So the cloud is basically kind of, it is evolved as a part of how you manage your data centers actually. That means over a period, right, the different technologies means different concepts or different kinds of management techniques have come in the data center management. So that's the reason when you say, if you want me to define what is a cloud, I always put the definition in a data center perspective here. So look at this one. See, owning the data center is not for everyone. It is costly, it's complicated, it requires high maintenance, and most of the time, very low utilization of hardware, network, and the power. That's fine. It is a data center, right? If you take a traditional data center, so obviously it requires a huge maintenance. Means if you take the traditional age-old data centers actually. So the cloud computing, it's a central data center for providing hosting services. And most of these services are on-demand, scalable, and most of the public clouds will provide unlimited computation and the storage. So if I say what is a cloud, at the back end, a cloud is nothing but a data center. At the back end, a cloud is nothing but a data center. But yes, this data center has the capabilities of kind of what you call it as self-services. That is providing the self-service management. Kind of like, see, I can go to this data center and I can say create a VM on my own, or deploy a load balancer on my own. That means these are all basically the management tasks only. Earlier, I need to raise a request to the administrator, IT administrator, to provide me a VM with so and so configurations. But today, I can just go to the cloud. I can say that create a VM form, create a VM. I'll raise a request called as create a VM. Let me fill the wizard, and a VM will be provisioned actually. A VM will be provisioned. So everything means it's a data center, but every operation that you want to perform on the data center is offered as a service. Every operation that you want to perform on the data center is offered as a service. Example, creating the VM is a service. Deploying the load balancer is a service. Monitoring is a service. Applying the patches is a service. Installing the software is a service. Backup and restore is a service. So any operation that you want to perform on the data center, it's now offered as a service. That is the way in the first generation, the cloud concept is introduced. So a cloud is nothing but a data center where every operation is offered as a service. That's why we say that a cloud is nothing but a central data center or collection of data centers for providing the hosting services. And most of these services are on demand. That is the major advantage of the cloud, because as you know, most of the clouds today is offering, or the pricing model of the cloud is what we call it as pay as you go. What kind of hardware capacity you are using, for how much duration you are using, the charges will be based on that. And these services are on-demand scalable, or we call it as elasticity, or we call it as auto scale. That means whenever the load is more, the number of instances need to be increased. Whenever the load is less, the number of instances need to be decreased. So that is what we mean by most of these services are scalable. Scalable means they support. See, scalability is there even on my on-prem. But what is that additional feature that we will get in terms of the scalability is the auto scale feature. Auto scale feature. So that's the reason, if you ask me, what are all the main three characteristics which are having highest priority? What are all those main three characteristics of the cloud? If you ask me, so I can say the first one, I can put it as in cloud, everything is a service. Number two, most of these services are elastic in nature. And number three, for all these services, you will have inbuilt high availability. These are all the topmost priority in the features of the cloud actually. That means you can take any data center, you automate the operations of this data center to provide these kind of features. You automate the operations of this data center to provide these features. Then I can very well call my data center is a cloud. I can very well call my data center as a cloud. So that is the reason, if you see here, we moved from the first gen traditional data centers. We moved from the traditional data centers. This is the first gen data centers where most of the things are manual and we will be doing all the things. And in the next gen, because they are very complex, because each component I'm purchasing from a different vendor. So my router is from a different vendor, load balancer is from a different vendor, and my storage is from a different vendor. Understand? My routers are from a different, like that. So in the second generation, we moved to converged infra. So in a converged infra, everything comes in the form of a box. That's why we even call it as, these are all the second gen data centers where we use a word called as data center in a box. And then from there, we slowly moved to hyper-converged infrastructure, HCI, hyper-converged infrastructure, where the virtualization is playing a major role. And after this is the first gen, the second gen data centers, and the modern data center. After the invention of this virtualization and after developing these HCI solutions, right, people started thinking about why can't we, because the virtualization you will be achieving using the software. So with the help of this software, understand, you can do a lot of things. That means if you want to interact with your data center, you will be interacting via this virtualization layer. And after the introduction of this virtualization, so everything has become software defined. So after the HCI, we got a concept called as software defined data centers, right? And an implementation of the software defined data center is nothing but a cloud. So basically the cloud is an implementation of means the software defined data center is kind of architectural components and the framework, right? So an implementation of the software defined data center is nothing but a cloud. So this is the way. So what are all the challenges that you are facing in the management of the data centers, right? To address those all the challenges, right? They have come up with a very, 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 like say, intensive automation on their data centers. And they come up with a concept called as software-defined data centers. And implementation of the software-defined data center is what we call it as a cloud. So this is a major, like say, what do you call it as the shift in the data center. Means when it was traditional, converged, HCI, they didn't attract many people or the many organizations actually. But when this software-defined data center concept is evolved and it came, right, it attracted the many organizations today. And this is basically called as the cloud, the way how it is evolved, actually, right? So now let us look at the benefits of the cloud computing. So the cloud computing introduces many benefits to the software vendors, fast on-demand computing and storage resources, which I told you already, and lower cost of ownership. This is one of the most important thing, lower cost of ownership. See, according to the Gartner report, if you see, if you have an on-prem data center, if I'm migrating my on-prem data center to the cloud, directly you will be getting the benefits of almost all 60%. Between 50 to 60% is the cost, like say the benefits that you are good. Means whatever is the cost of your on-prem data center, just invest 50% of that and you can move your data center to the cloud. So it's like lower cost of ownership actually, the cloud. And the better availability, that is one of the way almost all the public clouds, if you take AWS or you take Azure or you take GCP, any public cloud you take, they are providing you something called as a triple redundancy. Minimal redundancy is triple redundancy. Right. If you want more than that, yes, you can get it. But the means the clouds are ready with the minimal redundancy causes a triple redundancy. Example, if I go to my AWS, if I go and create one database instance, and at the back end, it maintains 2 more copies of that instance. Or if I go to AWS, if I create one EC2 instance, at the back end, you will have 2 more copies of the EC2 instance actually. So this is the minimal. Right, the triple redundancy is the minimal that the public clouds are providing. So that means any cloud you take, it will have the inbuilt high availability. And then finally, the elasticity, one of the very, very interesting feature. This is basically, you can call it as elasticity, you can call it as auto scale, or you can call it as on-demand scalability, or you can call it as a dynamic scaling, right? Means any service you take, example EC2, or if you take, like say, that is kind of VMs. EC2 is nothing but VMs. Or you take the VMs as a service, you take the databases as a service, or you take the Kubernetes as a service. Understand? Everywhere you have the inbuilt auto scaling feature. This is one of the most hyped feature of the cloud actually, that is called as elasticity, on-demand scalability. You can see here. What is an advantage of this on-demand scalability? Generally, if you have, so a static scalability, see, I'm saying that I'll take a simple graph between capacity versus time. That is the hardware capacity provision versus the time. So take an example. I'm moving an application from dev to the QA, and I have done all the testing in the QA. Then I'm moving this one to the prod. So before moving the application to the prod, so we have to do a proper capacity planning. So according to, like say, it means when you are like started working with the capacity planning, we make a lot of assumptions actually. And one of the common assumption is what can be the growth for my application in the coming 2 years or 3 years. So that means I will make my environment ready to address this kind of growth that is coming in the coming 2 years. So example, if you take here, I'm first provisioning the hardware. I'm planning for the first 2 years, and I'm provisioning the hardware. Example, this is the first level of provisioning I have done. Example, I provisioned almost all, let us take, say, n instances. Number of instances are n instances I provision. So my application growth means the application is deployed and the application usage started. So at the end of the second year, you can see here, so my application is completely using. See here, till here, if you see, maybe after 1.5 years, let us take, say, so the application touched the maximum usage of this one. But I planned for the first 2 years. But within 1.5 years, it is done. So, but what about this, like, say, half year? Okay, let us keep it that. Then, because the application usage is still growing, then what I have done, I planned for another 2 years. That is another 2 years. And I increased the number of instances to 2n. And the application usage is continued. Maybe at the end of, like, say, kind of the 4th year, it touched the usage. Now, if you look at in this whole process, guys, until this 1.5 year, even though I have the hardware here, I'm not fully utilizing this hardware. Only after 1.5 year, I'm touching this one. And again, within this half year, even though I required more hardware, I don't have the sufficient hardware. Again, when I provisioned the number of instances here, again, until the end of the 4th year, I'm not fully utilizing the hardware. So that means most of the time, either my hardware is under provision or over provision. So I can say 70 to 80% of the time, your hardware is over provisioned. Maybe some, like, say, 20 to 30% of the time, your hardware is over provisioned actually. Understand? So this is exactly where what we will do, the concept of the elasticity come into the picture. So we never provision the hardware statically. Earlier, it is a static provisioning. This is a static provisioning. Now, we are not going to provision statically. Instead of that, what we are trying to do is this blue line represents my hardware provisioning in the cloud. The number of instances provisioned in the cloud. That means whenever my application requires more number of instances, it will add the instances. Whenever it doesn't require, it will remove the instances. Again, whenever it requires, it will add the instances. And whenever it doesn't require, it will remove the instances. So that is an advantage of elasticity. So how it is finally, like, say, affects my ROI. So it's very simple. So as I told you, any cloud, if you take, it's basically pay as you go. That means how much hardware you are utilizing and what is the duration of the utilization. Based on that, your charges will be. So here, whenever you are not utilizing it, they will be deprovisioned. The instances will be deprovisioned. So you won't be charged for that. So that's why you will have a very, very good optimization, or you will get a very, very optimal pricing or the optimal cost for your usage actually. That is the major advantage of the elasticity. That's the major advantage of the elasticity. Is that clear? Right. So it can address many kind of, like, say, what you call it as the scalability requirements in terms of the application. Example, you can see fast growth and predictable bursts or unpredictable bursts and periodical processing. Means the applications depending upon what kind of application. So example, if I take, like, say, your e-commerce application, Right. So an example, if you say successful services needs to scale to answer the demand, it is kind of a steady growth actually. And predictable burst and unpredictable burst, these two are the very important things. Predictable services with seasonally trends, peaks due to the periodic increase in the demand. Example, on my e-commerce website, I'm launching some discount campaign. So as soon as I launch the discount campaign, the usage becomes more. This is, I can predict it because I know what is the date for my campaign. Only in that date, right, I want more number of instances. So that's kind of a predictable burst. And unpredictable, unexpected or unplanned peak in the demand. Suddenly, right, some like say usage comes more in your application. That's basically called as unpredictable. It can be even addressed. And periodical processing. Example, some maintenance jobs. Right, in a month, maybe like say the 30th of every month, I'm going to run some maintenance jobs. So when I'm running those maintenance jobs, so the number of instances have to be more. So that is basically called as periodical processing actually. Or very simple, if I'm integrating my application with some legacy environments every day from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., right, what are all the morning transactions we have, I need to run the batch jobs over those transactions to commit them into the legacy environments like mainframe or something. So they are basically called as periodical processing actually. So these are all basically the different types of like say application usages, understand, which can be addressed with the help of cloud elasticity, or we call it as on-demand scalability or auto-scaling feature. Right. So as you know, guys, all of you know, so we basically talk about different variations in the cloud. So the first thing is like based on what we call it as a service delivery model. Based on the service delivery model. So based on the service delivery model, we have based on service delivery model. So we have the variations like what kind of services the cloud is providing. Is it providing IaaS services, PaaS services, or SaaS services? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So you take anything as a service. Example, storage as a service, or web application platform as a service, integration platform as a service, container as a service, database as a service, networking as a service. Anything you take, it has to fall under one of these category. Is it an IaaS, or is it a PaaS, or is it a SaaS? Understand? Right. So my interest of keeping this slide here is, technically all of you know what is IaaS, what is PaaS, and what is SaaS. Example, in IaaS, up to the hardware, it is provided by the cloud provider. So as a customer, I'm the owner of the OS and the above. That means as a customer, I can control over above the OS and the above. Understand? So in the same way, if you look at a PaaS, up to the runtime, it is provided by the cloud provider. It is provided by the cloud. And as a customer, I can deploy my application and the data, and I can start using it. So as a customer, I'll have only the control on this. See, example for IaaS, example, creating the VMs, configuring the networks, configuring the load balancers, and all this stuff. They come under IaaS category. And platform as a service. Example, I can go to my AWS and I can ask, give me the Tomcat environment, or give me the Kubernetes environment, or give me the Docker environment, or give me the Oracle environment, give me the MySQL environment. So they provide you up to the runtime. On which OS they are providing that runtime and all, it is not like saying, means you cannot maintain it. You can understand which OS, underlying OS and all, but the control is with the cloud. Example, let us take if I'm taking Oracle as a service here. So he will be creating the up to the Oracle environment, and I will have the access only to the the database, or let us take MySQL as a service. So MySQL server instance will be given by the cloud provider, and I will have the access to only the database. That means I will be the owner of a database. I can do any tuning or anything at the database level, but I cannot do anything at the server level. I cannot go and add some kind of server roles or server level security or server level backup and restore or server level tuning or server level high availability. So these things I cannot do it. That will be taken care by the cloud. So that is what do you mean by runtime as a service. Then when it comes to the SaaS, software as a service, up to the application, it is provided by the cloud provider. But you are just and as a customer, I'm just an end user of the application. So example, if you see from Microsoft, we have something called as Azure cloud, as well as I have a O365 cloud, Office 365. So where you will get mail, where you will get portal, where you will get Teams, where you will get like say OneDrive. All these are all the services you will be getting. They're all basically the SaaS. And in the same way, if you look at Google, you have a GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So this is basically like where you will have IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, everything. But from the Google, there is something called as today Google Workspace. Earlier it was called as Google G Suite. Now it is called as a Google Workspace. And the Google Workspace is a pure SaaS cloud. It's a pure SaaS cloud. So these are all basically what do you mean by a PaaS, SaaS and all. Now, the interesting thing here, guys, see, generally, when you take, means if I want to see, calculate the costing of a data center, we will always divide the costing into CapEx and the OpEx part. Capital expenditure, which is not like say recurring expense, it is a one-time expense, and OpEx, which is a recurring expense. Example, you can say your servers, you can say your racks, and you can say your storage devices, you can say your network devices. All these things are one-time investment. They're CapEx. And when it comes to the OpEx, let us take you will have your monthly rentals or monthly bills and all. That is for power supply or something. And the most importantly, like say the software licenses, right? And the next one most important thing is the salaries for the IT. The salaries for the IT professionals who are maintaining this data center. That is basically the OpEx. Now, look at this one. So here, the most important thing that you need to understand in terms of IaaS, PaaS and SaaS is, if you look at the IaaS, means if you see all these three things, there is one common factor here, guys. There is one common factor, that is, whether you go for IaaS, PaaS or SaaS, this particular layer is always with the cloud provider. This particular layer is always with the cloud provider. This layer is always with the cloud provider in all the three things. So this is basically your CapEx. That means when you are migrating any of your application or anything, so whether you migrate using an IaaS approach or a PaaS approach or a SaaS approach, your CapEx is same for all. CapEx is same because that is always under the cloud control. So the CapEx is the same. And this is where you will be getting 50 to 60% of the benefit first of all, when you are moving your environment to the cloud. This is the CapEx benefits, which is common across all the three models. Now, what is the difference is in terms of the OpEx? So take an example in terms of an IT professional salaries and all. See, I required to maintain the IaaS, I required sysadmins, I required DBAs, web server admins, app server admins, mail server admins and all. Then I need to have developers and application support guys. So this whole layer is basically my OpEx layer. But whereas if you come to the PaaS, when you come to the PaaS here, I require the developers and the application support guys. That's all. And this is my OpEx part. And when it comes to here, It is a very nominal OpEx, maybe the license cost, the software license cost and all. That's it. So that means when you are migrating your applications to the cloud, whether you follow an IaaS approach or a PaaS approach or a SaaS approach, any approach you follow, your CapEx benefits are same. Your CapEx benefits are same. Understand? Your CapEx benefits are same. So only that will be changed here is the OpEx part. That means when you are moving from IaaS to the PaaS and PaaS to the SaaS, so what you are lowering here is the OpEx. Is the OpEx. That means if you look into the ROI perspective, when I'm trying to migrate to the cloud environment, and if I look at the business ROI perspective, I always prefer what we call it as the SaaS first approach. The SaaS first. So typically this is even called as serverless. This is even called as the serverless because we don't know where that application is running. So the SaaS first approach, that means you have to always see it in that way, that what are all the things I can migrate through SaaS? If not, then only you think about the PaaS, then only you think about the IaaS. So always your migration strategy has to be SaaS first approach. Wherever it is possible, you have to adopt the SaaS services. Then only for a business, because generally you take, guys, if you take any business, if you take, for any business, if you see the IT is a cost center. It is not a profit center. It is a cost center. It is not a profit center. So when it is a cost center, we always try to reduce the cost on the cost center. So in terms of the business, right, say business owner, I always look into how to reduce the cost. That means when you're trying to suggest a migration approach, you always need to adopt a SaaS first approach. You always need to adopt the SaaS first approach. So this is my interest of keeping this because I think most of the guys know what is IaaS, what is PaaS and SaaS. But I want to interpret IaaS, PaaS and SaaS in terms of the migration actually. That is the main objective of this one. Perfect. So let us come to the next one. So the second variation is how the cloud is deployed. Is this cloud is a public cloud? Is this cloud is only for my organization, private cloud? Or is it a combination of public and private? That means it's a hybrid cloud. Yes. The most important thing, guys, today, if you look at any means more than 85% of the organizations are following multi-cloud approach. Following the multi-cloud approach. They're not sticking to only one cloud because it's very simple. It is not this cloud is good or that cloud is good. No. See, first you have to see what is your application and this application requires what services. So in the context of the application, then you need to choose this service from this cloud is more useful in terms of, like say, the cost wise and support wise, features wise. So that means you take any one service from one cloud, and if you ask me as a generic question saying that, right, this service in Azure is good or this equivalent service I have in AWS, which is good. No, we cannot tell that. We have to always tell in context of the application. So that is the reason today, many of the organizations, they are following the multi-cloud approach, more than 85%. This is in accordance with the Gartner report. And out of this 85%, majority, more than 90% of these multi-cloud deployments are using the hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud. The reason is very simple, guys. See, today, whatever we are developing newly, we are following something like cloud first and mobile first approach. This is good. Whatever you are newly developing, we can do that. But what about my legacy environments? There are many things which I cannot move to the cloud. Example, I have age-old mainframes and AS400 systems. I cannot move them. Or I have the proprietary hardware. Example, I have a Solaris environment, which is running on the Spark hardware. Or I have AIX systems. I have HP Unix systems. And these are all, like say, comes with their own hardware. I cannot move them to the cloud because today, if you take any cloud, AWS or Azure or anything, either I can create a Windows system or a Linux system, but I cannot create a Unix environment at all. So still we are having so many what do you call it, as resources which are running on on-prem. So now partially I moved to applications to the cloud, but they need to interact with the resources which are there my on-prem. So this is where the hybrid architectures come into the picture. Yeah, depending upon what kind of service it is. Is it an IaaS? Is it a PaaS or a SaaS? Accordingly, I will design my hybrid architecture based on what service and based on what functionality. There is no predefined path or something, guys. These are all the steps you need to follow to create a hybrid. No, we don't have. That purely depends upon your, like say, what is the application and what services. Based on that only we can define the hybrid configurations or the hybrid architectures. So this is basically, right, what do you mean by a public, private and hybrid? Right. So here, the migration strategies. Now you saw, right, here I'm saying like IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. As I told you, you have to go for always a SaaS first approach, but it is very costly. SaaS first approach is very costly. The costly in the sense, in the migration, it is very costly. Migration procedures are complex. Why? What is the reason? So generally, if you look into the cloud migration strategies, guys, so what we follow here is, first of all, why to migrate? The scalability to accommodate the growing data requirements, faster development iterations and reduced provisioning time, improved the IT resource management. That is what the major advantage. That means the cloud provides you, or I don't say the cloud, from the concept of virtualization, my infrastructure has become dynamic. So we are provisioning, like say, dynamically. Whenever I want, I'll create the VMs, then I'll destroy it. But before the virtualization, it was a static. So in those days, my servers were pets for me, but today they are no more pets. Whenever I want, I'll delete it and I'll create it, because now the environments are dynamic, providing the dynamic infrastructure. That is the most important. And improved cost management and collective IT insights and data security and reduced carbon footprint. That is the most important. Reduced, carbon footprint here. Understand? Environmental friendly and all. Right. So what are all the key considerations for the migration? Cloud vendor and type of cloud. This is the most important. Cloud vendor and a type of cloud. That means you should not stick to one cloud vendor. You should not stick to one cloud vendor. So for my application, these are all the services. Example, I'm migrating my .NET application. Let me run, but which is having a backend of Oracle. Is a .NET application? Yeah, my Azure is giving me the best features as a PaaS. But for Oracle, my AWS is giving me the best PaaS features. So application part, I will migrate it to the AWS and Azure. And the database part, I can migrate to the AWS. That means cloud vendor and the type of the cloud selection, one of the most important, and cost structures. And the first and foremost important thing here is, guys, before touching any service or before designing your migration strategy, the highest priority should be given to what we call it as the cost. The cost means you need to understand the complete pricing SLAs of all the clouds, because every cloud has its own pricing SLA. You need to understand, as an architect, migration architect, you need to understand these pricing SLAs fully. And security and the data protection, you need to evaluate what kind of security standards that are provided by each vendor. And the backup and disaster recovery mechanisms, that means what is the kind of backup and high availability provided by these cloud vendors. And the portability, this is most interesting, that is ability to migrate or switch service providers easily. This is where the concept comes, guys. We talk about cloud native or cloud agnostic. Cloud native or cloud agnostic. I'll talk about that. So providers easily, portability, and skills required to build and operate the cloud environment. That's okay, fine. The IT team, what size of IT team I require, what is the costing of that IT team. These things we need to consider. So generally, what we need to decide is what to migrate and how to migrate and where to migrate. These are all the things. So you have to prioritize your applications and the processes. Then how to migrate? You formulate a migration that aligns with the needs and the addresses of the potential risks, the downtime considerations and all. Then finally, where to migrate? Right, choose a reliable platform, the private or public or the hybrid, whichever is good for your application. So you need to choose the proper platform for that. So generally, yeah, I kept it only 5 guys, 5 R's. There are many R's also, but the highest priority we'll give to 5 R's. We'll say rehost, refactor, rebuild, revise, and re-platform. Okay, let me put it like this. So I can say this as, these are all the top 3 guys. I can say is top 3. Rehost, refactor, and rebuild. Revise and re-platform, this is okay, fine. So, but the rebuild, or we call it as a re-architect, we call it as re-architect. You can call it as rebuild, refactor, or re-architect. So rehost, this is kind of lift and shift. This is nothing but your IaaS approach. And refactor, without doing modifications to my application, where and all I can adopt the cloud services. Example, mine is a web application. So instead of running my web application on a VM, let me run on a web app service. And instead of running my database on a VM, let me use a PaaS service. That is basically called as, you can say lift, think and shift, initiate the cloud optimizations. That's it. Without rewriting the code and re-architecting or means modifying the code, you will do the minimal adoptions of the cloud. And that is basically called as refactor. So this is kind of the PaaS approach. Then the most important thing is the rebuild. This is like what you call it as, you have to completely re-architect. You have to make it as a cloud native application. You have to make it as so this requires reverse engineering of your application, or we call it as application modernization. Understand? So where and all possible, let me adopt my SaaS services. So generally the SaaS migration is the, ROI wise, it is really good, SaaS is. Because your maintenance cost is very less, but the initial migration cost is more because it may require re-architecting of your application. So these 3 R's, which I will give the highest priority. Then it is okay, revise and re-platform. Revise, develop and productize common business and the technical services, consolidate similar applications and the services, and then re-platform, move to more cloud-aligned technology and platform services, integration with the cloud operations and the monitoring platform. It's completely re-platforming. There is no hybrid. Everything goes to the public cloud itself. But generally, the 3 R's are the most important: rehost, refactor, and the rebuild. Rehost, refactor, and the rebuild actually. Yes. Fine. So that's okay. Public, private, and hybrid clouds. I explained what is the difference here. And choosing a single cloud provider or a multi-cloud provider, that also I told him. So single cloud provider, development teams have just one set of cloud APIs to learn. And applications can benefit from the features and offered by the chosen cloud provider. And downside is vendor lock-in. Means there won't be any portability, but multi-cloud approach. Run the applications across multiple cloud environments. Choose the cloud based on the capabilities of each provider. Capabilities, costing, and everything. And downside is increased complexities because the tech team need to learn multiple APIs, need to have the knowledge on multiple clouds. But yes, today the companies are inviting only the multi-cloud approach. Today, the companies are inviting only the multi-cloud approach. Example, if you see here, this is the report. If I go to, I'll just say, Flexera multi-cloud report of 2024. If I go here, look at this one. See here, right? So we have, in a sample of 753, 89% of the organizations are using multi-cloud. Again, within this 89%, 73% are using the hybrid cloud, and 14% is the multiple public clouds, and 2% is the multiple. This is the trend, or this is the like say the strategy, which the cloud strategy the organizations are following actually today. So that is the reason multi-cloud. It is complex, but yes, the portability is very high. The portability is very high. And the next important thing here is cloud native approach or cloud agnostic approach. This is the most important. Cloud native, see, easy to set up, SaaS available for most tools and easy integration. And this is a vendor specific and managed services, only one set of APIs, and auto provisioning, auto scaling, auto redundancy, and security. But whereas I'm not going to do any vendor lock-in. So that means I want to develop my application as cloud, not cloud native, cloud agnostic application. That is, can be implemented on and moved between the cloud platforms. So we will be using a lot of templating architectures and no vendor lock-in, no unified APIs for calling the cloud services, and dependent on in-house skill sets, and a single management interface for monitoring and reporting, and availability of the cloud neutral tools such as Terraform, Ansible, Jenkins, like this. We don't use anything called as a cloud specific tools. We will always go for cloud agnostic. So that is the way. It means you have to follow the multi-cloud approach, and your migration strategy has to be cloud agnostic. That means it should not be a particular cloud native. It has to be cloud agnostic. That is the most important thing in the migration. Understand? So let us see. This is about the cloud, guys. Now, when it comes to the DevOps, actually, why we are bringing the DevOps is, again, let me go back here. We are saying, see, the same logic if you take here, guys. Infrastructure, platform, and the software. IaaS, PaaS, and the SaaS. Let me put it in a different way here. See, take an example here. Generally, if you look at in a DevOps, the main three automation pillars. In a DevOps, the main three automation pillars are, so the first one is infra automation, the next one is CI/CD automation, the next one is the operations automation. So typically, the practice of automating the infra is called as IAC, infrastructure as code. So we follow kind of a three-step mechanism. That is, we will model the infra, then we will provision the infra, and then we will implement the config management, configuration management. That is fine. So, but these are the three layers. Now, what I'm interested here in this architecture is, let us take an example. Let me take an on-prem environment here. So when I take an on-prem environment, see, when you want to automate the infra, means if I want to bring the DevOps onto my on-prem, so first you need to automate the infra. From 0%, you have to fully automate it to the 100%. I may need to have a specialized IT ops team with the DevOps scripting knowledge and IAC knowledge and all. Then the CI/CD from 0%, you need to bring it to the 100%. And again, the operations from 0%, you need to automate and bring it to the 100%. So it takes its own time and with a huge cost, huge time and huge cost. Right. So, but to compete in the business, to adopt the new things in the technology, means to bring the new technologies into my business, this may not suit for me. And this is where exactly what today we are doing here is we are choosing some kind of a cloud. It can be a public cloud or it can be a private cloud. Why? Example, let us take the infra layer. In the cloud, already the infra layer is automated. It is available in the form of IaaS services. And for my CI/CD, continuous deployment, I required a Tomcat environment with MySQL runtime, right? Both the environments are available as PaaS. And if you look at it, the operations, I want monitoring as a service. I want backup and restore as a service. I want scaling as a service. All those services are available as SaaS services in my cloud. That means 90% of 90 to 95% of the automation is already in place. Only thing is you just need to write that so 5 to 10% of automation are the scripts to integrate these three layers. So that is an advantage of adopting the cloud. That means one of the driving factor behind the cloud today is the DevOps adoption. So the organizations who want to go for the DevOps today, they are looking for which cloud is suitable for me. So that quickly I can get the DevOps practices into my organization. This DevOps culture I can bring easily to my organization by adopting the cloud here. That's why this is one of the driving factor behind the cloud here. So that is the reason I don't see the cloud and the DevOps as two different things. Look at this one. So we always keep the DevOps and the cloud. This is the kind of the symbolic relationship between the cloud and the DevOps. This is my perspective, guys, because out of my experience, this is what I understood actually. So this is basically the kind of the symbolic relationship between DevOps and the cloud. Is that clear, guys? So this is the kind of like say introduction to kind of a brief overview about what are all the things that you need to consider. What are all the things that you need to consider when you are trying to adopt. So the cloud concepts are like say you want to adopt the cloud technology into your organization. So these are all some of the things that you need to consider. Just hope this has given you like say kind of a brief overview of the way you need to think in terms of the cloud. Yeah. So if you have any question and answers, you can go ahead, guys.
Wonderful, Professor Rao. I really like the way that you put together the different services available with multiple, connecting from the infra to DevOps cycle together with, I think that was an amazing connecting the dots. So we have a few questions here. We are hoping that we have more questions coming on your way. So please chat away if you have not put your questions. I think more or less, I think they are looking from themselves, the perspective that what kind of job opportunities are available, how is the job market for cloud and DevOps, and in terms of, I think mainly those are the questions which are coming.
Okay, career-wise.
Yes.
Okay, I can say today, guys, like I'm seeing more in terms of I don't say basically like we are looking only for pure cloud professionals. No, we are always like, see today, if I take like I want a AWS, an infra operations guy with AWS knowledge, but obviously what we will be looking here is, right, he should have IAC knowledge also. What kind of infrastructure as code knowledge? He might not be like say full-fledged in terms of DevOps, but IAC knowledge requires, because most of the migrations I will automate through the IAC. Understand? So this is means if I look at a cloud architect, I will be obviously seeing like multi-cloud architect. So if you say that I'm very good in the AWS architecting, no. The organizations for a cloud architect profiles, so they are looking at multi-cloud. And the DevOps profiles, they are not looking at a particular set of tools in the DevOps. So it's kind of like any means your DevOps process need to be clear, right? The DevOps concept need to be clear. Learning the tool, anything you can use it. But when it comes to CI/CD part, any set of tools are working. But when it comes to like say the IAC part, they are very, very specific. They are very, very specific, the organizations are. But yes, so out of 10 requirements in an organization today, I'm seeing more than 6 to 7 requirements are on cloud and the DevOps. Cloud and the DevOps. That's the kind of market. And even if you look at the monitoring benefit side also, yes, it is, if you look at the traditional developers and the DevOps engineers, right, at the same level of experience, it's almost all double. almost a double. Minimal I'm saying is the double. It is even crossing the double also. Crossing the monetary wise, the salaries wise, it's more than that. So that is the kind of, like say, the marketing requirements today we have.
So that's a very overwhelming answer, Professor Rao, because we may have participants who are just starting the cloud journey. So if you say that multi-cloud and not just one skill on DevOps, I think that maybe it is unclear. So if you could tell that a person who is starting the cloud journey, how does that person should start? Which cloud? Is it more of certifications? Is it more of projects that they should do? Or, can you? Yes.
Yeah, that will be a very good query, ma'am. So I can say is, first you need to start with understanding the cloud fundamentals clearly and the DevOps fundamentals clearly. Then, so what we need to see is, if it is an infra perspective, the guys with infra background and all, first you can start your journey with AWS. And the guys with development background, that too, especially in the .NET, you can start your journey with Azure. And if you guys are developers with Java and open source, you can start your journey with the GCP. But obviously, you start the journey with that cloud. But at the end, because you're a .NET, you are more pro towards the Microsoft. That's why I'm saying that you start your journey. But at the end, yes, as a developer also, you should be very, 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 like say, comfortable working with AWS APIs, Azure APIs, because your application might be running on one cloud, but you are going to query the other services that are deployed. Means part of your application is deployed. Means example you take, I'm taking a NoSQL itself. So my application is a .NET application running on Azure, but my NoSQL is running on AWS. So I need to understand how to query this, how to pass, like say, my OAuth tokens and all, everything you need to learn. So means for the starting, I can say you can, infra guys, you start your journey with AWS and then get into Azure. And least preference I'll give is the GCP. But if you are, let's say, .NET guy, developer, you start your journey with Azure, and then the next spend the time on the AWS, and then finally to the GCP actually. That is the way. That means finally you have to learn all the things, but for ease of learning and to get more interest actually. So means generally in one of the thing in the learning is the hesitation, whether I can learn this or not. So this is looking completely different, and also to avoid those, like say, hurdles actually, this is the starting way of doing. But finally you need to have all the clouds. And yes, having the certification is a very, very valuable thing today, guys, because as a whole, if you look at, see, if the technology is available since ages, I don't look at your certification, because I have sufficient, like say, excellent interviewers who can interview, or like who are sleeping and breathing in the technology for last 20 years. So they can easily evaluate you, how much you have the hands on, how much you have. But today, the technology itself is new. The companies are adopting. So what is basically the dependency part, or like say kind of the way you can give the confidence to the company is, yes, I'm certified. So that's why these certifications are also having a very, very huge weightage, guys. Very, very huge weightage. Understand?
Yes, Prof. I think that is very, I think it is, your answer is actually going very well with our program as well. But before we move on to our programs, I think there are still questions. One question is that I think somebody is asking that in the AI world, how the cloud migration, how cloud is going to help in terms of, say, in the era of AI. I mean, I know you have addressed to some extent.
Exactly. If you look at AI, or if you look at data science or data analytics and all, see, because when I was explaining you, I'm saying that one side, if you look at the whole, like say, processing architectures, you cannot build it on your on-prem. So all the processing architectures are going to be on the cloud. Processing architectures are going to be on the cloud. And today, most of those AI services, you take your ChatGPT, you take your Copilot, right? They are not selling the Copilot as a product. Like an MS Office, you can install it and do it. No, everything is cloud integrated. Everything is cloud integrated. So if your application is cloud integrated, yes, the AI services that are offered by the clouds, you can easily integrate with your applications. So even the growth of the AI is in parallel with the growth of the cloud, actually. In parallel with the growth of the cloud. Understand?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So there are questions around individual career. I think Kiran is asking that how do I switch from QA to cloud? He has been in QA with 10 plus years and no prior experience on cloud.
Good. So as a QA guy, you are already the part of your Agile team. So earlier, if you look at your Agile team, just the dev and the QA guys are the part. But today, we are not looking at the pure traditional QA guys. We require the QA guys, understand, who works as a part of my pipeline creations, DevOps pipeline creation. So the QA guys need to adopt a lot of automation in terms of the DevOps. And whenever you talk about the DevOps again, the DevOps are internally linked with the cloud. And not only that, let us come to the QA. There are two things now, which is like say largely picking up. One is, are you using the cloud as your QA test bed? No. That is one scenario. People say that I know cloud because in the QA I'm using cloud. No, you are using the QA either as a test bed. That means your QA environment you are creating on the cloud. That's it. That is one area. The second area is the QA for my cloud native applications testing. It starts with IAC onwards. These are all the new QA skills which people are looking at. Yes, I have written my automation using Terraform. I have written my automation using CloudFormation. I have written all my migration automation using ARM templates. But do I have the skill set to test my Terraform script before it is going to the production? And especially I'm searching for this profile for almost all for last 1 month. I'm not getting the QA guy for that. Right. So most of the automation I'm doing through the Python. How much knowledge you have means you have a Python testing knowledge, but Python in terms of the DevOps automation testing. That means using the Python for my infra automation. So those kind of Python scripts I want to test. So these are all the new trends in the QA, and this is where the QA guys need to adopt the cloud and the DevOps knowledge. QA guy. So this is basically the opportunities. Yes, we have very good opportunities, the QA guys, because you can sit and now whatever is the testing frameworks you developed, you write the new testing frameworks for my IAC. You write the new testing frameworks for my cloud native applications. That is my 12-factor app principles applications developed using the 12-factor app principles. You come and sit and write the complete test framework for that. So these are all the opportunities which are all very, very demanding in the industry today. Very, very demanding.
Excellent. I think Kiran would have got the answer, but he has an extension question that how much programming is required for cloud? I think this is a standard question.
I don't say programming because as a QA guy, be good in the scriptings. That's good enough. Not like you should be a Java programmer, hardcore Java, hardcore .NET programmer. No, the scripting knowledge is good enough.
Yeah. I think we also always encourage you to pick at least one scripting language like Python, which will come in handy across, right? Okay. And somebody is asking that I am a data scientist and how do I use cloud and DevOps?
Yes, today the data science is totally running on the cloud only. Because how many of you are, as a data scientist or a data engineer, how many of you are using your, the regular traditional tools like Informatica, right, Ab Initio, right, all these things? No, now everything. Because now, looking at these, earlier people were very specific on the data engineering part. But now, I don't say I want only a data engineer. I'm always looking at, I want a data engineer with a data science skills here. And whenever you want to work with the data science, today I cannot provide any capabilities or the capabilities or applications that are required for my data science requirement. I cannot provide it on my on-prem. Everything is available only on the cloud today. So they need to adopt. See, remember guys, today, whether it is a infra guy or whether it is a developer, whether it is a QA guy or whether it is a DBA or whether it is a data science or a data engineer or an AI guy or an ML guy, yes, the cloud is the mandatory. Cloud is the mandatory, and that is going. You say that I am a data engineer with cloud knowledge. There you will have the added advantage.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah, I think that's very clear. And again, to just start from my end, that any data science projects you are building on Python, where are you deploying? I'm sure that
Exactly.
the API is ending at in some cloud endpoint, right? So I'm hoping that you are already consuming. Okay. So I think because of the lack of time, and I can see the kind of passion that Professor Rao exhibits and the wide experience that he brings in, I would take a few minutes, Professor Rao, if you don't mind, to share my screen and then introduce what we do, because you have been part of that program. So I'm just sharing my screen. So Professor Rao and a series of senior mentors are part of our initiative, which we again bring it back to Reva Academy for Corporate Excellence. We have been working on developing programs, projects, and products in various focus areas in AI, business analytics, cybersecurity, and cloud technologies. As Professor says, cloud is one of the infra layer, right, across these. So cloud with AI, cloud with analytics, cloud with cybersecurity. So cloud is an integral part of all our programs that we focus for working professionals. And we do that with various partners. And we work closely with Azure, AWS mainly. We also have a little exposure to Google, GCP, but majority of our programs have these partners, and 90%, as Professor Rao mentioned, that a majority of these cloud providers are from these two. And how do we kind of run these programs? Because it is catering to working professionals, we have developed an ecosystem which is for the executives, run by industry leaders. So people like Professor Rao, who comes with decades and decades of teaching and implementing. Without implementing the projects, nobody is teaching here. So that means what you get to see is the challenges that he would have faced in his practical life or in the life of an implementer, and that's why he is able to move between multi-cloud environment to the different layers that you would have seen, from an infrastructure to DevSecOps to any with that ease. And that is the kind of exposure that you would get to see if you come connected to our ecosystem. And we have participants coming from, so our average experience would be about 10 years with, and all of them are looking for career transitions. So 4 to 24 years of experience and come from 100 plus marquee organizations. And that also is a great advantage of being part of RACE, because you would not only learn from the mentors, and you will also learn from the participants who are your co-learners, who come from this senior positions themselves. So the kind of, you can fast track your career journey. You're going here and there, learning from different YouTube. You are going to get everything in one platter, but an excellent customized personal service for you to move your career, right? And how do we do that? We currently have about 4 master's programs and various short-term programs across analytics, across cybersecurity, AI, and cloud. So we would just take a minute to talk about this program. This is Cloud Architecture and Security program, which I'm hoping that a lot of you who are starting that journey, that I am a QA engineer, or I'm a test engineer, or I am from an infra engineer and I want to move to the cloud, we strongly propose for you to look at this program, where we have various job roles have been defined and this program has been developed. And the best part of the program is that while it will give you a good, validated, globally relevant master's degree, which connects through about 2 years programs. These are weekend programs designed for working professionals, taught by industry professors like Professor Rao and various other mentors. The best part is that we have incorporated these certifications within the program itself. So we would start with AZ 900 from Azure, which is talking about fundamentals of cloud. This is followed by a series of Azure certifications. So administering on cloud, creating the infra design, and the security part of it. So we have, say, 104, 305, 500 has been covered from the Azure side, and from the AWS side, again, parallel track on the SysOps administrator and the architect certifications. And this has been part of, so that means from the ground up, that converting your infra to cloud, to moving, building your cloud computing, the layers, and using different multi-cloud platforms, from administering to orchestrating and deploying that, and also managing the risk governance and risk compliance here, looking at IDAM specifically, and building that final deployment piece of it. All put together is what the product is being designed for you, keeping you in mind, which our typical participant would be a 10 year to 12 years of experience guys who wants to move to cloud, the cloud related job profiles, which include, say, data ops or DevOps or ML ops, etc. Because you will also get a project to be done with the help of the mentors. So we also do a lot of customized short-term programs. And so with that, I think those who are interested to connect with us, we would request you to please chat, put a chat in the message that we will connect to you, or you can also reach out to any of the numbers or any of the people on the chat. You can always connect with us. And I am hoping that this session has been a wonderful learning. Okay, somebody is asking questions, right? Any age limit? Absolutely no, Paul. We are open from minimum work experience of about 2 years or 3 years is good, because we are talking about advanced technologies here. And with Professor Rao's background, we are talking about multi-cloud deployment or implementation project. So at least about 2-3 years of experience is preferred. There is no upper age limit. You can be 60 and learning, you can be 70 and learning. There is no upper age limit. And these are master's programs. And I think that is the kind of question that I have here. To somebody, yes.
To add one more point, ma'am, actually, I just want to tell to all the people. Yeah, see, we have, like, say, kept the certifications, we structured the course and all, but it doesn't mean it is going to be the static. The course curriculum is the static. Means if some new things are happening in the cloud, we are going to adopt those things, and we are going to, append those new technologies or new, inventions in the cloud or new certifications in the cloud. We are going to even add the overviews and giving you complete insights into the new things that are happening. So that is one point. So it's very, flexible, actually, our course curriculum is. So we will have some standard structure. Apart from that, right, we have even a provision for these adoptions, the new things.
Absolutely. And a lot of projects which the participants are doing on, say, automating ML ops on cloud, and also build the redundancy with another cloud, right? So these are very very transformative projects, because that is the talking point. And all our programs have been ranked number one in terms of return on investment. We boast about 50 to 500% hike in our participants, and which they get it during the program. So we are hoping that you will use this opportunity to learn more. What you just so is a glimpse. We would go deeper into multiple clouds, multiple challenges, multiple solutions, and the requirement asked by the enterprise is what this program is going to help you. And as I mentioned, we are in North Bangalore. We have a beautiful campus, and we would love to host you in the campus here. And we have a dedicated corporate training center with dedicated labs, virtual environments, multiple facilities that typical corporate program participants would look for, and that is built. And again, I think let's close this session. I know we started at 7, thinking that 1 hour is the session. We have closed now it is 8:25. I would want to profusely thank Professor Rao for a wonderful, on the edge presentation, because it's a distilled wisdom is what we saw in this one hour. I'm sure a lot of participants still have questions and all that, or it's just an inspiration for you to go and explore more. So we do hope that you will learn by yourself, and if you think that you need a structured guided learning, please connect with us and we will help you to actually move you to this amazing world of cloud technologies through our programs. And we have other programs as well. So with that, we say happy learning and keep up the high spirit, and thank you everyone. Good evening and thank you.
Thanks everyone. As we conclude our webinar, so we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to each one of you. And I think today's session was incredibly insightful. Thanks to our distinguished speakers, especially Professor Rao and Dr. Shinu. And I hope everybody has got the answers, and we hope the knowledge and the strategies as shared today will help everyone in your professional endeavors and inspire you to innovate and optimize your cloud journey. So once again, thank you everyone. We look forward to seeing you at future events. Stay updated with our social pages and YouTube channels where you could gain many such events. Okay, so please go to our website www.race.reva.edu.in. Also, you can call us on given numbers. We are there to solve your all queries. So thank you once again. Good night and have a wonderful cloud career in dreams. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am, to give this opportunity for me.
Always. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.